Ever wonder what really happened to the man who spent more than 5 decades making stadiums shake with his voice? Steven Tyler helped turn Aerosmith from a struggling local band into one of the biggest names in rock history. The group sold more than 150 million records, earned a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and created songs that generations still know by heart. But behind the scarves, the wild stage moves, and the unforgettable voice was a life filled with triumph, heartbreak, addiction, injury, and battles that never made it into the spotlight. At 78, the full story is more powerful than ever. But how did it all begin? Steven Tyler was born Stephen Victor Tallarico on March 26, 1948, in Manhattan, before growing up in Yonkers, New York. Music surrounded him from the very beginning. His father, Victor, was a respected classical pianist and music teacher, and young Stephen spent countless hours listening to melodies that would shape his future. For him, music wasn't just something to enjoy. It became the language that made sense of the world. As a teenager in the early 1960s, Tyler threw himself into local bands with incredible determination. In 1964, while attending Roosevelt High School, he formed a group called the Strangers, later renamed Chain Reaction. The band quickly built a reputation as an exciting live act and even opened for major artists like the Byrds and the Beach Boys. Standing on those stages gave Tyler his first taste of the life he wanted. But success came with warning signs. In 1967, he was expelled from school because of substance use, a problem that would later threaten everything he worked for. Still, an even bigger opportunity was just around the corner, and it would change rock history forever. That turning point arrived during the summer of 1969 in Sunapee, New Hampshire. Tyler watched a local band called the Jam Band perform and immediately connected with guitarist Joe Perry and bassist Tom Hamilton. Their chemistry felt undeniable. Tyler convinced them to start something new, and together they moved to Boston, where Aerosmith played its first show in 1970 alongside guitarist Brad Whitford and drummer Joey Kramer. The band's name came from Kramer, who had scribbled Aerosmith in his school notebooks simply because he liked the sound of it. The early years were anything but glamorous. The 5 musicians squeezed into a tiny apartment in Boston's Allston neighborhood, rehearsing endlessly while trying to build a following one audience at a time. Their hard work paid off when Columbia Records signed them in 1972. Their debut album followed a year later. It wasn't an instant blockbuster, but it introduced Dream On, a song Tyler had written years before Aerosmith even existed. That track would eventually become one of the most iconic rock ballads ever recorded. But the band's true explosion was still waiting. Everything changed in 1975 with the release of Toys in the Attic. Songs like Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way turned Aerosmith into a national sensation. Their blues-inspired hard rock, combined with Tyler's electrifying stage presence, made them impossible to ignore. The momentum continued with Rocks in 1976, pushing the band's reputation even higher. By the end of the decade, Aerosmith was filling arenas across America, and Steven Tyler had become one of the most recognizable frontmen in music. Fans compared him constantly to Mick Jagger because of his incredible energy and movement on stage. But Tyler had his own style. His scarves, powerful screams, and fearless performances made him unforgettable. Unfortunately, as the fame grew, so did another part of his life that few people fully understood. The same drive that fueled his performances also fed dangerous addictions. And before long, everything began falling apart. Could the world's biggest rock band survive what came next? By the late 1970s, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry had become known as the Toxic Twins because of their heavy drug and alcohol use. Behind the scenes, the band was slowly collapsing. In 1979, after growing tensions and a backstage confrontation, Joe Perry left Aerosmith. Brad Whitford followed in 1981. Tyler tried to keep the band alive with replacement members, but the magic was gone. Album sales dropped, audiences faded, and one of America's greatest rock bands seemed headed toward the end. Tyler later admitted that cocaine, heroin, alcohol, and prescription drugs had taken complete control of his life. He described those years as terrible, acknowledging that addiction had nearly destroyed both himself and the band. The hardest part was that these struggles were shared. Everyone around him was caught in the same destructive cycle, making recovery seem almost impossible. Yet an unexpected opportunity was about to rewrite their future. In 1986, producers Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons suggested something almost nobody thought would work. They wanted Aerosmith to team up with the rap group Run DMC for a new version of Walk This Way. Neither side was excited at first. In fact, Run DMC barely knew who Aerosmith was. But Rubin believed the collaboration could be something special. He was right. The song became a groundbreaking hit, introducing rap to rock audiences while bringing Aerosmith back into the spotlight. Suddenly, the band mattered again. More importantly, Tyler entered rehabilitation, and the rest of the group gradually committed to getting sober. Recovery wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't quick, but it gave them a second chance they never expected. What followed became one of rock's greatest comeback stories. The comeback began with Permanent Vacation in 1987, followed by Pump in 1989, which featured the powerful hit, Janie's Got a Gun. Then came Get a Grip in 1993, earning Grammy Awards and proving the band's return wasn't just a temporary revival. Throughout the 1990s, Aerosmith became MTV favorites, introducing their music to an entirely new generation of fans who had missed their original rise to fame. Their biggest commercial moment arrived in 1998 with I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, recorded for the movie Armageddon. The song became Aerosmith's biggest chart success and revealed a softer side of Tyler's voice that many listeners had never heard before. His emotional performance reached audiences far beyond traditional rock fans. It seemed like nothing could stop him now. But after decades of pushing his voice to the limit, his body was keeping score. And eventually, it demanded payment. In 2023, Aerosmith announced the Peace Out Farewell Tour, giving fans one last chance to celebrate more than 50 years of music. The opening concerts were exactly what everyone hoped for. Then disaster struck. During one performance, Tyler seriously injured his voice. At first, reports mentioned bleeding vocal cords. But doctors soon discovered the damage was much worse. Tyler had fractured his larynx. The remaining tour dates were postponed while he focused on recovery. Fans remained hopeful that the band would return. Months passed. Treatments continued. But the news everyone feared finally arrived. In August 2024, Aerosmith announced that Steven Tyler's injury would never fully heal. Despite receiving the best medical care available and giving everything he had during rehabilitation, doctors concluded that his voice could no longer handle the demands of touring. The farewell tour was over before it truly began. Aerosmith officially retired from the road, ending one of the greatest live careers in rock history. But the injury wasn't the only challenge Tyler had faced in recent years. In 2022, after foot surgery connected to the band's Las Vegas residency, Tyler suffered a relapse involving opioid pain medication. It forced him back into treatment, reminding everyone that addiction recovery is an ongoing process rather than a finish line. Tyler had remained sober for more than a decade before that setback, and he spoke openly about the daily effort required to stay healthy. His honesty became one of the most inspiring parts of his later years. Even after retirement, Tyler refused to disappear completely. About 6 months after the band's announcement, he returned to the stage during his annual Jam for Janie Grammy viewing party in Los Angeles, performing classics including Dream On and Toys in the Attic. In September 2025, he appeared at the MTV Video Music Awards alongside Joe Perry, Youngblood, and Nuno Bettencourt in a tribute to Ozzy Osbourne, performing Mama, I'm Coming Home. Friends later revealed Tyler had also sung privately for the first time in well over a year. His voice had survived, but not enough for another worldwide tour. So what comes next when performing has defined your entire life? As Tyler entered his late 70s, another challenge emerged away from the stage. In 2022, Julia Misley, formerly known as Julia Holcomb, filed a lawsuit alleging that Tyler groomed and sexually assaulted her beginning in the early 1970s when she was 16 years old. The lawsuit referred to Tyler's own memoir, where he wrote about obtaining legal guardianship that allowed a teenage girl to travel with him. Tyler has denied the allegations. A separate lawsuit filed in 2024 by former model Jean Bellino, involving a different alleged incident from 1975, was dismissed because of statute of limitations issues. But the Misley case continued moving forward. In early 2026, a California judge ruled that parts of the lawsuit could proceed to trial. Tyler is scheduled to face a civil jury in Los Angeles County Superior Court on August 31, 2026. His legal team continues to challenge the claims, but the case now appears headed for court. Away from those legal proceedings, Tyler's career remains one of the most successful in rock history. His estimated net worth stands at around $150 million, built through decades of album sales, worldwide tours, television appearances, licensing deals, and royalties. Songs like Dream On, Walk This Way, and I Don't Want to Miss a Thing continue reaching new listeners through films, television, streaming services, sporting events, and countless personal moments around the world. The music has taken on a life of its own. Today, Steven Tyler carries the weight of an extraordinary journey. He experienced unbelievable success, devastating addiction, an almost impossible comeback, the heartbreaking loss of the voice that defined his career, and legal battles that continue to shape his legacy. Through it all, the songs remain. They still fill arenas through speakers, inspire young musicians, and remind listeners why Aerosmith became one of the greatest rock bands ever assembled. Rock and roll has always celebrated living without limits. Steven Tyler embraced that promise more completely than almost anyone. But his story also shows that every choice carries consequences, no matter how famous or talented someone becomes. The stage may no longer belong to him, and the future remains uncertain, but the music continues to live on. Long after the concerts have ended and the lights have gone dark, his voice still echoes through songs that millions of people will keep playing for generations to come.